Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Learn Medicinal Chemistry Online. I hope you all are doing good and I hope that you went through my previous video which was about basics of adrenergic system, which is also called as sympathetic system, its neurotransmitter, as well as biosynthesis, storage, release and metabolism of noradrenaline and adrenaline. Now in line with that, in today's video I am going to cover adrenergic receptors. So let's begin, guys. Adrenergic receptors are classified according to their affinity for noradrenaline, adrenaline, or isoproterenol. Okay, now we have already seen the structure of noradrenaline and adrenaline. Let me show you once again. Okay, see, can you see? This is the structure of noradrenaline, this is the structure of adrenaline, but we have not seen the structure of isoproterenol. So in that structure, the only difference is instead of NH2, you have to draw NH, CH, CH3, CH3. Now what is this? 3 carbon containing in the cyclic form, in the chain form, that is isopropyl. Remaining structure, that is this part, is same, only replace hydrogen with isopropyl group. Can you see this? Okay, so this becomes isoproterenol. So based on their affinity for noradrenaline, adrenaline or isoproterenol, they are classified into two receptors, alpha receptor or beta receptor. Now affinity means what? Their ability to bind with that receptor. So alpha receptor binds more specifically or more easily with epinephrine, then with norepinephrine, and then with isoproterenol. While beta receptor is reverse, it can bind easily with isoproterenol, or it has more affinity for isoproterenol than epinephrine and their norepinephrine. So alpha receptor, it has most affinity for epinephrine, then norepinephrine, and then isoproterenol, while beta receptor, it has the most affinity for isoproterenol, then epinephrine, and then norepinephrine. Now again, this alpha and beta is subdivided into alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, as well as beta 3. Okay, it is the research on this receptor is very less, okay, but still it exists. So let's start one by one. In today's video I am going to cover only alpha 1 receptor. Okay, so now before starting the alpha 1 receptor, let me tell you what are the different types of receptors in body. So basically there are 4 types of receptor, mainly ligand gated ion channel receptor, next is G protein coupled receptor, next is enzyme link receptor, and the last one is nuclear receptor. So in body mainly 4 types of receptors are present, which is ion channel receptor, next is G protein coupled receptor, next is enzyme link receptor, and the last one is nuclear receptor. Okay, now because this is medicinal chemistry and we have to see structural point of view more, so I will not be able to cover mechanism point of view much here, because then the SAR, that is structural activity relationship, will be hampered. Still I will try my best to cover as much as I can. So now as you know that there are 4 types of receptor, this alpha 1 receptor, the type is G protein coupled receptor, as I said earlier. Okay, why it is called as G protein coupled receptor? Because in the structure of this receptor G protein is present, that's why it is called as G protein coupled receptor. Now what type of G protein is present in that? It is GQ protein. Okay, now each and every receptor has various transduction mechanism by which they will show pharmacological action. So in this case, that is G protein coupled receptor, that is alpha 1 receptor, the transduction mechanism is phospholipase C IP3-DAG pathway. Now for G protein coupled receptor, there are mainly two types of transduction mechanism through which it will show its pharmacological action. First one is phospholipase C IP3-DAG. Second one is adenylyl cyclase CMP pathway. So in this case, alpha 1 receptor, the type of G protein is GQ and the transduction mechanism is IP3-DAG phospholipase C pathway. Now let me tell you how it works. First of all, any ligand, in this case noradrenaline or adrenaline, will bind with alpha 1 receptor. Then what will happen? Activation of phospholipase C. Now as I told you earlier, when something ends with ASE, it means it is an enzyme. So activation of this phospholipase C enzyme will do hydrolysis of this substrate, phosphatidylinositol triphosphate, that is also called as PIP2. Okay, phosphatidylinositol triphosphate. So it will do hydrolysis of this substrate and it will lead to production of diacylglycerol as well as inositol triphosphate, that is nothing but IP3 and DAG. These two will then, plus sign means stimulation, these two will stimulate the enzyme protein kinase, which then again, kinase enzyme always does phosphorylation. So here kinase enzyme is activated, so means phosphorylation of the cell, which will lead to contraction in general. Okay, I have tried to make it as simple as possible, so please try to remember this way only. Okay, so let's begin once again. First of all, ligand will bind with alpha 1 receptor, which will lead to activation of phospholipase C, which will do hydrolysis of phosphatidylinositol triphosphate, which will produce two byproducts, diacylglycerol and inositol triphosphate. Now these two, that is inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol, also called as IP3 and DAG, will activate or stimulate protein kinase, which will do phosphorylation of the cell, which will ultimately lead to contraction. So alpha 1 receptor, basically the final action is contraction. You can remember it this way. Okay, clear? Next. Okay, now we've seen the type of receptor, its transduction mechanism. Now we see where these alpha 1 receptors are actually located in the body and their function. So the first location is vascular smooth muscles of arterioles, blood vessels. Okay, and there what it does? Contraction. Now remember guys, receptors cannot show its own action. A receptor can show pharmacological action only when a ligand or a chemical moiety is attached to them. Now that ligand can be a neurotransmitter or that ligand can be a drug which is acting on that receptor, but receptor can never produce its own action. Okay, next location is smooth muscles of uterus. Again, contraction. As I said in previous mechanism, that alpha 1 receptor basically causes contraction. Next, radial smooth muscle of iris, that is eyes, part of eye. There also it causes contraction. Liver, it causes increased gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. Now what do you mean by gluconeogenesis? Genesis means production of glucose, and glycogenolysis means lysis or breaking of glycogen. Breaking of glycogen will also give you glucose, and gluconeogenesis will also produce glucose. So ultimately, because of alpha 1 receptor, glucose level of body increases. Next, fat cells, it causes lipolysis, breakdown of fat cells. Intestine, it decreases motility. Next, smooth muscles of prostate gland, there also it causes contraction. Okay, so see, I guess everywhere it is contraction, and it is basically present in all the smooth muscles, which are smooth muscles present in blood vessels, uterus, prostate glands, iris, that is eyes, eye muscles, and okay. So every smooth muscle, wherever smooth muscles are there, alpha 1 receptors are present, and there it causes contraction. Guys, you need to understand the function of these receptors, because it will help you to know the uses of the agonist and antagonist of alpha 1 receptor. Okay, so clear guys? Again, Vascular smooth muscles of blood vessels or arterioles, contraction. Smooth muscles of uterus, contraction. Radial smooth muscles of iris, contraction. Liver, increase in glucose production and breakdown of glycogenolysis ultimately lead to increase in glucose level. Fat cells, lipolysis. Intestine, decrease motility. Smooth muscles of prostate, contraction. Okay, so again this, now we have seen type of receptor, transduction mechanism. Type of receptor is G protein couple receptor. Transduction mechanism is IP3DAG pathway, which I've told you earlier. Location and function also done. Next is agonist, and last one is antagonist. So let's see agonist. Now to draw the structure of agonist, now here most difficult part of medicinal chemistry comes, that is drawing of structures of drug molecule. So I'll try to make it as easy as possible. To draw the structure of agonist of alpha 1 receptor, you need to understand that it is basically series, Zoline series. I'll tell you the significance later, but try to remember that alpha 1 agonist means Zoline series. Now series, when I say series, means the drug's name will always end with, most probably end with Zoline. Okay, so try to remember it that way. Alpha 1 agonist, Zoline series. Okay, now before going to the actual structure, let me once again explain you the structure of noradrenaline or adrenaline, because they are the natural ligand of alpha 1 receptor. So this is catechol, ethanol, amine. In case of noradrenaline, this R is hydrogen, so that's why NH2. In case of adrenaline, this R is CH3, so NHCH3. Okay, keep this structure in mind whenever scientists try to find out agonist or antagonist. What they do, they try to modify the basic ligand structure, the natural ligand structure, and natural ligand in this case is noradrenaline or adrenaline. So we will modify the structure of these moieties so we can get the drug structure. So first one in this category is phenylephrine. Okay, now this doesn't end with zoline, but it ends with INE. So this is an exception. Phenylephrine, the first alpha 1 agonist. Okay, here what is the difference? The structure is of phenol, this structure is of ethanol, and this is methylamine. Okay, isn't the structure same as adrenaline, where R is CH3? Here also R is CH3. The only difference is this OH group is not there here. See, otherwise the structure is of adrenaline. So how you can remember? You just have to remember the structure of noradrenaline. Just replace this R with CH3, it will give you adrenaline, and just remove this OH group, it will give you phenylephrine. That's why the name is ephrine, epinephrine, phenylephrine. Just remove the OH group. Here no OH is there here, while here OH is there. Rest of the structure is same as adrenaline. Okay, numbering will start from here because a functional group is present here, 1, 2, 3. So here basic molecule is phenol, while here basic molecule is catechol. That's the main difference. Okay, phenylephrine. Next structure, methoxamine. Now this also doesn't end with zoline as I said, but it ends with INE. So you can also remember it that way. Alpha 1 agonist means zoline series or /INE series. Okay, in this case let's see what is the difference. Okay, we'll keep this structure in mind. Keep this structure in mind. Here benzene is there, yeah, no problem. Ethanol is also there, amine is also there, just like noradrenaline. Here also what amine is there? Primary amine. As I said, primary means amino group attached to only one carbon. It is attached to one carbon only, it is not attached to this carbon. Okay, so it is attached to only this amino group is attached to only one carbon, that's why it is primary amine. So this part is same as noradrenaline. Okay, ethanol is also there. Only difference is here, if we talk about alpha carbon and beta carbon. Alpha carbon is the one next to the functional group. So this is alpha carbon. Alpha carbon has CS3 group because the name is Me. So Me means methyl. So alpha carbon has CS3, which this structure does not have. See, here no CS3 is there, but here it is there. Next, in the benzene moiety, on third and fourth position, OH group is not there. Instead, on second and fifth position, on second and fifth position, which group is present? Methoxy, because the name is methoxa. So the group here is methoxy. Okay, so Me means methyl, methox means methoxy, and remaining structure is same as that of noradrenaline. See the difference. Okay, so the only difference here is methoxy is present, and on third and fourth no OH is there. Instead, on second and fifth methoxy is there, and on alpha carbon one CS3 is there, and here primary amine is there. So the structure is of methoxamine. Okay, next structure is xylometazoline. Okay, now here the series I was talking about is zoline. Next structure is oxymetazoline. Next structure is nefazoline. There are many more zoline containing structure, but I have tried to cover only 5 or 6 compounds. So whenever you come across now any drug which ends with zoline, it should immediately click in your mind that it is alpha 1 agonist, and then you will be able to answer the uses of that drug also. Okay, so xylometazoline. Now break it. Xylo means xylene. Okay, ta means tertiary butyl. I'll explain. And zoline means, I'll explain that also. So let's see the structure. Okay, this part is xylene. I've explained all these structures in my first video. Okay, so please refer that if you have any query. So this is xylene. Now this moiety is tertiary butyl. Now why it is called as tertiary? Because this carbon is attached to 3 other carbon, and the whole total number of carbons are 1, 2, middle one is 3 and 4. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is tertiary butyl group because it is attached to 1, 2, 3 carbon, and this entire group is attached to this phenyl ring. So it is tertiary butyl, that is this. Now we have seen xylene also. Now come to this zoline part. Zoline, why zoline? Because it contains imidazoline. Now we have seen in my previous videos the structure of imidazole. So please try to correlate there. If I draw bond here, this structure, if I draw bond here, that is 2 bonds, 5-membered ring containing nitrogen on first and third position, the structure would have become of imidazole, but I have removed this one bond, that is here no bond is present, right? So this structure is of imidazoline. See, can you see any bond here? No. So this structure is imidazoline, and nitrogen's valency is satisfied here. 1, 2 and 3. Hydrogen is there, so no problem. Here also 1, 2 and this bond is there, so 3. And this middle part is methylene. See, this part is methylene. So again, I have made the structure very simple now. It is a combination of xylene, tertiary butyl, imidazoline and methylene, and the entire structure is of xylometazoline. Okay, clear everyone? Xylene, tertiary butyl, methylene bridge or linkage. This is used to combine this portion with this portion. So the link used is methylene, that is CH2. It is not methyl, guys. Methyl is CH3 and methane is CH4. Next in the category is oxymetazoline. Okay, now if you can remember the structure of xylometazoline, then oxy is very easy for you. The only difference is, which I can see, is extra OH on 5th position, which is not here. See, in xylometazoline no OH on 5th position, but because the name is oxy, extra OH group is there on 5th position. Rest of the structure is same. What is this? Imidazoline. Next in this category is nefazoline. Okay, what is same? Imidazoline, 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 methylene, 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 but the name is nefa, so we have to draw. What is this? This part is naphthalene, because the name is nefa. Rest of the structure is same, that is this part is common everywhere. See, okay, xylometazoline, oxymetazoline, nefazoline. Now these zoline series are collectively called as aryl imidazoline. Why aryl? See, it is called as the zoline series is called as aryl. I'll write it, aryl imidazoline. Now you guys know that why it is called as imidazoline, because it has imidazoline. It has imidazoline here. Okay, but why it is called as aryl, guys? What do you mean by aryl? Aryl means any aromatic compound having CH2. This group is called as aryl. I'm so sorry for the diagram. I'll try to again draw it. This molecule is called as aryl. Okay, now here can you see this? This part, aryl. This part, aryl. Here also aromatic, naphthalene is also aromatic ring. Okay, so aromatic ring with CH2 is called as aryl. So these zoline series are collectively called as aryl imidazoline because they have aryl in their structure and they have imidazoline in their structure. Okay, so I guess 5 agonists are enough for you, but if you come across any drug which ends with zoline, it is alpha 1 agonist. Remember, guys. Next, uses of alpha 1 agonist. Now try to correlate with the function and location of alpha 1 agonist. Okay, please try to remember this. You will be able to easily remember the uses. First use is hypotension, then shock, nasal decongestion and hyperemia. Okay, all these uses are related to muscle contraction only. Whenever hypotension occurs, there is need to increase the blood pressure, and when the blood vessels are constricted, the blood pressure will automatically increase. So it is used to treat hypotension where the body's blood pressure is severely low and you have to increase the blood pressure. Similarly, the case with shock also, you have to increase the blood pressure and blood flow to body. Nasal decongestion, they are also used as nasal decongestion. Have you heard about Otrivin, guys? Otrivin or Nazivion or Nazomist? No, Nazomist contains sodium chloride, I guess, but Nazivion, Otrivin, these two are most popular nasal decongestion and they contain zoline series. If you read, now make this practice that whenever you purchase a drug, please try to read the contents of that medicine. Okay, so if you read Otrivin and Nazivion, it contains zoline series, oxymetazoline or nefazoline or xylometazoline, because they are very famous nasal decongestion. Then it is also used as in various eye drops whenever allergy is there in eyes and there is redness of eyes. So to reduce the redness of eyes, you need to constrict the blood vessels present inside the eyes. Okay, you need to constrict the muscles. So in that case, these drugs are used, that is alpha 1 agonist, to reduce the redness of eye. It is called as hyperemia. So these are the uses all related to muscle contraction only, because the agonist shows same action as that of natural ligand. Okay, so when noradrenaline binds with alpha 1 receptor, it produces contraction of all the smooth muscles. Same way, when alpha 1 agonist binds with the alpha 1 receptor, they will also produce contraction of the smooth muscle and shows all these uses, that is hypotension, shock, nasal decongestion and hyperemia. Okay, last we have seen type of receptor, that is GPCR, transduction mechanism, IP3DAG, phospholipase C pathway. We have seen agonist, zoline series, uses. Now we will see antagonist and its uses. Now, well, antagonist, the series is Zosina. Earlier it was zoline, now it is Zosina. So let's see it quickly. First one is Prazosin. Okay, now this molecule we all know, benzene ring combined with pyrimidine ring 1,3 is quinazoline. See, this is quinazoline, that is benzene combined with pyrimidine and has amino group on 4th position, combined with piperazine and what is this? Carbonyl group. This group is called as carbonyl. I'll write it again. Carbonyl, this group. And the last part is furan. So if you know from my previous videos, if you know the structure of quinazoline, if you know the structure of piperazine, if you know the structure of furan, then what you have to remember extra is C double bond O and amino. So see how important heterocycle is. So please go and refer my previous videos before jumping onto this structure. Okay. So prazosin, nothing but quinazoline, which is nothing but benzene and pyrimidine, combined with piperazine from 2nd position, combined with furan via carbonyl group, will give you prazosin. Next structure is of terazosin. The only difference I can see is here. See, quinazoline is there, it is there. NH2 is there, it is there. Piperazine is there, it is there. Carbonyl is also there. Just these bonds I cannot see here. The bonds are missing. So this structure, that also I have covered in my previous video, tetrahydrofuran. Now why? Because as we remove these bonds, we have to add one hydrogen extra to balance the valency of this carbon. Okay, valency of carbon is 4, and because we remove these bonds, we have to add hydrogens. And how many hydrogens we have added? 4. So the name is tetrahydrofuran. The only difference. Okay, in layman language, you can just remove these bonds. You will get tetrahydrofuran. Next structure in this category is doxazosine. Doxa means dioxane. This structure also I have tried to cover. Dioxane. Okay, now we'll see where is dioxane. Okay, see, this part is common. Piperazine is there, carbonyl is also there. Here, what is this? Benzene. And what is this? Dioxane. Di means 2, ox means oxygen on 4th and 1 and 4th position. 1 and 4th position, 2 oxygens are there. 6-membered ring combined with benzene ring will give you benz dioxane. So guys, the only difference is here, furan, tetrahydrofuran and benz dioxane. Rest of the structure is same in all 3 drugs. Here also benzene is easy, you just have to remember dioxane. So antagonist is clear, series is zosine. Last part is uses. Now alpha 1 agonist were used in hypotension. So antagonist, because they shows opposite action, they will obviously do relaxation of muscles, all the muscles. So they are used as antihypertensive agent because they will relax the blood vessels, leading to reduction of blood pressure. They are used to treat benign prostatic hyperplasia. Now, what is this benign prostatic hyperplasia? It is a non-cancerous form of tumor where the prostate gland enlarges abnormally. The size of prostate gland increases so much that there is pressure on this urethra, and the urethra becomes very constricted. See, and urethra is responsible for passing of urine, so there is difficulty in passing of urine because there is tremendous pressure of this prostate gland on this urethra, which will lead to difficulty in passing of urine. So how these antagonists will help? They will constrict the prostata. They will relax the urethra. I'm so sorry. They will relax the urethra, leading to easy passage of urine. See, earlier urethra was this thin, now it is relaxed and more urine can easily pass through this, and leading to some symptomatic relief in this benign prostatic hyperplasia. So there are two uses of alpha 1 antagonist, antihypertensive and benign prostatic hyperplasia. Okay guys, this is it. So if you like my video, please share and subscribe and stay connected. Bye bye guys, see you again.